to the EZNZ Podcast. Today, we don't have like any major things we want to talk about.
You promised we were going to play games.
I did promise we were going to play games. We can't deliver because I made the promise.
Yeah.
So clearly we
Someone's
need
a little
to
bit
know.
difficult.
Yeah, when I made the promises, don't trust that. When Hannah makes the promises, we deliver.
To be fair, a lot of the things you said, Hannah's going to put this in. As we went through the last one, I did my best for you, man.
That's good.
But we are back in our usual room today, but it's not finished.
I thought I was in trouble.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
But we're back in our usual spot, and there's just a massive pile of furniture there, so it's not quite finished.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will be next week to play some games and catch up on stuff. But you're really excited for today, Fletch.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of big things. We've talked about a lot of big things in particular over the last few podcasts.
Yeah.
But big things aren't what always matter in technology to your everyday use, right? So it's always about those little things that can really have an impact on your life and make yourself more efficient and just your life easy.
That life motto of work smarter, not harder, that we always go by.
Yeah, always spout out. So that's what today's going to be about. We're going to talk about some cool things that we both love. We might have recently discovered them. I know Hannah has recently discovered something she's dying to shout out.
I can't wait.
But yeah, we'll talk about those, and then we'll talk about some Office 365 features which have just been released, and they're in the process of being rolled out as updates do. But I want to start with your thing, Hannah, because I've heard about this a lot, and I'm excited for you.
All day since yesterday. I stumbled across it through an article from the Windows blog that you sent to me, so thank you, because this has changed my life, and I think it's very, very cool. It's called the Microsoft Font Maker. It's a free app within the Windows Store, and you can make your handwriting into a font. And I know that sounds super lame and super simple, but I've recently realised just how different it is to get a handwritten note.
Yeah.
And that nice personal touch. I am such a firm believer in inking and using all of that kind of stuff. But I've actually incorporated this into my email signature just to put a nice personal touch to it, all kinds of different things. So basically what you do is you just go through and write out the alphabet, write out some symbols, write some sentences for the app, and then it predicts from then on how your handwriting would work to make certain words.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing.
It is actually cool. It's one of those, again, something that might sound really, really simple, but to actually be able to compute and predict your handwriting style, even though you have written down the alphabet.
Yeah.
The structure of words and the spacing of letters and words, it changes constantly, so
exactly.
That's really cool.
And that's what's really amazing.
Cool.
You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can change the colours, but I don't think that explanation has done it justice. I'm just excited and it's cool, but I'm so excited I made a little video of it in action, so I'm going to drop that on it.
I wanted to share a story today, and it's a very nerdy story. And I said to Hannah, before we started this. This is incredibly nerdy, but I want to share it because it is an exact example of how I use Office and my computer just to make my everyday life easier. And a while ago on the podcast, I talked about what I like to do in my spare time, which not just the NFL, of course, although great game on while we're filming this today.
Yeah, right.
But I like to paint models and play games like Warhammer, play games like Bold Action, which some of you guys might have heard of or play yourself. And some of my friends really have just started to get into it. Me and one of my long-time friends, Graham, have been into it for a long time. And 3 other mates are really starting to sink their teeth into it. So one of the hard things, though, is remembering rules and stuff like that.
It's been something that my dad has done like my whole childhood, and I kind of remember like him having a bunch of mates over and then going like setting up a table and having all their little models and just standing there being like,
what are you doing?
Like, what are you doing? How does this work? Like, isn't it like a historical based thing? You can't really like rewrite history. Like, I don't get it.
So it's very cool, and it's like we're using Warhammer for this one because it is probably the most popular tabletop game where you use models out there, and I'm creating a campaign for my friends. So the idea of the campaign is that we start off with very small amounts of figures that we play with. We start with a very limited selection of what they can use, and then we scale it up so that they can, one, understand the rules and understand how to utilize different units. But, man, it's been so easy to do. And the reason for that is I've just been using PowerPoint, and I've been using PowerPoint to make little background stories, so, get a bit of a narrative going, get some investment in from the guys to make missions. I even made a little solar system diagram because that's the level of nerdiness I'm going into. But with your phone and the WhatsApp app, it's been so easy to share. So we've got a group in WhatsApp. I've been talking to one of the other guys, Graham, who's also got experience on how we do things, how to balance it out so it's not unfair. And it's just been so seamless and easy. I was being surprised that none of the guys have asked me, how are you typing back to us so fast? In the comments, because I'm doing like big novels of messages, and I just wanted to shout out how easy and seamless it was.
And I think that's really cool. And I know a lot of features, especially in things like Office, you think about, great, that's going to make my work life easier. This is how I use that. But it's very much a part of our jobs to live the life. To live the dream, sell the dream, be the dream. So I think it's really cool hearing how things like that can actually translate into something you're doing in your real life. And, especially collating things like rules and getting the backstory and stuff. If you have like 100 different things and 100 different mediums that you're delivering them through, that then becomes confusing, information gets lost. And as you said, being able to use your phone and do that really nice and easily between the two things is super awesome and super easy.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good segue into some of the updates that I want to talk about.
Absolutely.
I'm going to chuck in some now. Because as a campaign progresses, I'm sure you guys have watched like history shows, whether it's in school, whether it's at home, where there's a map and arrows come across, and you can see them moving.
I was really looking at you like, where are you going? What is the story you're telling us?
So like as a continuance and to put it into a real life situation, obviously PowerPoint's a great place to use inking. So I can have a little map of a table I'm making, and have some arrows coming in to animate it and make it look cool for the guys as we're showing like where the pincer move is happening or whatever, all that cool stuff. PowerPoint now lets you convert that inking into text and shape at the same time, and smart art as well for anyone who's interested. So I could ink some of that stuff, I can write it. My handwriting's terrible, which is why I might not use that font out to ever do something. I want people to be able to read what I write. So it's pretty awesome that I could, jot that inking out there, give it some shape, and then just have it convert instantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it's all about, again, I say it all the time, the whole purpose of technology is to make your life easier.
Yeah.
Now, instead of selecting the text and the shapes individually, to do it all together, it's just nice and easy, and it shows the advances that we're making with AI in Office to just make it great.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because that's where I was going to go with that. And that blows my mind, the fact that it can really easily tell the difference. I don't know how it does it, but it's very, very cool. And all of those artificial intelligence features that are being built in to allow you to work smarter, not harder, in really simple ways as well.
Absolutely. The other cool thing in PowerPoint is another favourite of mine. Just while we're going on, and this is across PowerPoint and Word, so you guys know. So the other thing is animated 3D objects.
Yeah, Fletch works a lot in the education space.
Yeah, this is
super exciting. Like the most exciting thing for you. You've talked a little bit about it over time, but as more gets introduced, the more excited you get about it.
Absolutely, and it's really cool because they use a lot of the animated 3D objects that you could use in the Windows Mixed Reality Viewer, which is also fantastic for education. So they've got like T-Rexes, they've got solar systems, they've got like a cutout of the Earth's, like crust and mantle, and how that can create mountains, and how mountains can cause different types of rainfall, which I very much live in that environment because I live out west with a whole bunch of mountains around me. But it's really cool that they've introduced these, and like education is straight away where my mind goes to because of that exact reason. And when you go to actually insert a 3D object, you'll now see 2 new libraries in that start. So there's animated objects, and there's 30 that we've chucked in there to start things off. And there's also animated objects, which are good for education. So it's selected the best ones out of there for you to choose from. And I really want you guys to check out some of these shapes, because when you're in like geography, when you're in science at school, these would have been perfect. Whether it's biology and it's explaining how like a T-Rex can move. It's showing there's a whole bunch of different ways he can move. You can insert them in, and then you can choose from about 6 different types of animations. So whether it's roaring and getting down, I'll just do it, whether it's running with his arms.
We don't need a 3D animated T-Rex, and we've got Fletch.
I have little arms. But yeah, so that's very cool. But I particularly like the geography side of it, because I was a big geography fan at school. I don't know how many people can say that.
I think that was shown a couple of weeks ago on our podcast as you took us on a tour.
Yes, absolutely. But I think this will make it a lot more accessible for kids who aren't necessarily interested, when it's talking about how the tectonic plates colliding can form mountain shapes, or how as clouds rise, it creates rainfall, but not just rainfall, different types of rainfall.
And I think that speaks to such an important story. And my time as a trainer, I think the most important thing that we've learned is to show rather than tell. So for example, even at the start of this podcast, I explained an app, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, like that sounds cool. But then you see it in action, you're like, yes, that makes sense. I see how it works. I can easily do it myself. And I think, history, geography, all of those things, there's a lot going on with mixed reality and all of those kinds of things. In order to bring history to life, to make it more exciting, to tell those stories, to keep them moving on. And I think that, even those simple things, like, as you said, seeing how those tectonic plates actually move and collide and what that means and what that causes, I think doing that in a 3D way in a Word document is insane, and that just blows my mind completely.
So on board with that.
I hesitate to say it, but do I want to go back to school? Maybe.
I would love to see the environment, right?
Completely different to how school was when I went to school, and incredibly different from when my parents went to school.
And I know this is going on a tangent. We didn't plan this when we were talking about what we're going to talk about today.
Off you go.
Just check out the Microsoft Store if you are someone who works in education. There are so many good apps for history, geography, and everything else. Whether I know there's a fantastic app about the Gallipoli, if you're from Australia and New Zealand, which tells you it brings up a 3D image of the mountain ranges and the beachheads, and it explains different points. It introduces you to historical figures who we have their journals and know what they experienced. It gives it from the point of view of the Turkish, as well as the Anzacs and the English who took part in that. So there's so much in there that I would just recommend checking out to see if it's useful for you. Because it's so powerful.
And I think just for anyone wanting to learn anything, of course the internet is a vast and powerful resource, but I think, the way that we share information now, even like things like podcasts, like having a conversation, talking about things that way. I'm looking at the moment at some infographics on my device. So these are 7 ways to work together in PowerPoint. I'm going to share a little link here because it looks really cool. But I've just noticed as we've been talking, I've opened it as a PDF within Edge, and the UI has changed a little bit. Yeah, and I'm just looking at this now being like, how didn't I know this? This is so exciting. And it's features that have sort of always been there, but it's put in a more clear way for what you'd actually want to use it for. So for example, instead of just the inking pen, it says add notes.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds real lame and real simple. That UI, when you hit add notes, looks the same as Edge has for the last 3 years when you bring up the inking feature. But if I didn't know that that's what that meant, and I think that that's been some of the things we've talked about, and I'm sorry, I'll let you speak in a minute.
You can
but
tell
some
I'm
of the
dying.
things we've talked about have existed for a little while, and we'll talk about them, people will be like, hasn't that been there for ages? And you're like, yes, it has, but there are so many people that don't know about it, and I've said probably 100 times, if you don't know it's there, you're not going to go looking for it, and you're going to miss out.
Absolutely, and just with that particular interface in Edge, when you're working with PDFs, yes, it is an incredibly important change, because even last week, while you were working from home for a few days, Hayley, one of our new account managers who's come and joined us in the team, asked me how to edit a PDF, right?
Right.
And so I walked around and I helped her, I showed her how to do it, just open it up in Edge, pull out your pen and press the inking button. But then afterwards she's like, how do I save it? And that's because before that interface, which is now visible and now explains what the different things are, you'd have to click at the top of your screen to get it to come up. So little things like that which just make it easier, make it particularly easier for people who are unfamiliar with the product.
Absolutely.
Really important.
Absolutely, and I like that you said that, unfamiliar with the product, so making it familiar, making it usable. There's a read aloud feature in here, which is just super obvious, really easy, it works really well to just kind of get it to talk you through. I've noticed that on the free Outlook app, on the web version of Outlook, that you can get it to read your emails aloud to you super easily. There's even a page view, so like either I can have it as a downward scroll or I can have it more like a book flipping from side to side, which is just super easy and a nice way to be able to interact. And I like that I can now choose how I interact with this stuff as well.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you did this on purpose, Hannah, but you have set me up perfectly to talk about something else. And this is something I'm excited about. So there's an app in the Microsoft Store called To Do. And
yes, I didn't. I knew you wanted to talk about this, but off you go.
There we go. It's not a new app. It's been in there for a little while. But again, the functionality's gotten a lot cooler and a lot better on it. So To Do, it's like a task app. So you write down what you want to do in the day. You can set up categories. So I guess the cool thing about it is it's not just designed to actually be a to-do list. It could be a reading list. It could be a movie list. You can have your grocery list, all that stuff in there, which is awesome. But now it syncs with your Outlook, which is really, really powerful.
Cool,
So the what you can do, and this is on the online version as well, which is why I was like, oh my gosh, did you set me up for this or what? As well as the version you get through Office 365 and 2019. You can select an email and drag and drop it onto your tasks so that you remember that you need to do it. When you red flag an email, that also puts it into your task so that you remember about it. You can even purely use Outlook to just start a new task manually. And then that links with your To-Do app. But the best thing about it, and continuing on my theme of a seamless experience, is the To-Do app is available on iOS, it's available on Android, it's already built into your Android launcher, Microsoft launcher on Android, which I use. And it just syncs across your Microsoft accounts. So that's really important for me because obviously I've got my computer open most of the day, but I purposely try not to have it necessarily open when I'm trying to have time with my wife, or I don't have it open constantly when I'm walking out and about. So,
and I think I'm 100% on the same page as you. I usually use sticky notes on my device a lot to write a little to-do list, especially when I'm frantically busy. I'll have a lot of things and I'll have them color-coded and stuff, but that's only available to me when I have my computer open and when I'm at my device. For example, pretty much every night before I go to bed or every morning when I wake up before I start getting ready, I'll check my Outlook calendar for what I have on that day.
Yeah.
Having a to-do list that goes between both of my devices, really nice and easy, being able to check that out, convert tasks, just so I have kind of more of an idea. So for example, if I'm just looking at my Outlook calendar, I don't put everything in there necessarily. Like I can only see my meetings and things like that. But today we had to record the podcast. That wasn't in my calendar, but it was something I was already thinking about.
Yeah.
I like having things in a list. I like to be an organized lady. In case you can't tell, I'm a little bit bossy. So I really like having those as well.
No, absolutely, and that's perfect. And we live in Outlook, and I know a lot of other people out there live in Outlook as well. Yeah. So the fact that you can use Outlook as the driver behind that app on your computer, and pick it up on your phone really easily, just the convenience is amazing.
Yeah, and what I like about that as well is that that's a really helpful and powerful tool to mix my work life and my personal life. Yeah. And I know a lot of people do prefer to keep those totally separate, but if I have, if I'm planning a social event, obviously we're coming up to Christmas, so everybody wants a Christmas party. Being able to put all of those things in my calendar, have all of them on my to-do list, and kind of just, bridging that gap between a work account and a personal account and all of those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And with that is me done talking.
I've got some more.
Yeah, I know you've got some more.
I'm really excited and looking forward as well. So there's a lot of new things coming. As you know, Windows 10 is always updating. There are always new features coming. Same with Office 365, and that is what I love most about these awesome products and services and operating systems and things that we get to work with. So I've been looking into a little bit more about what is coming with Windows 10. There's a new light theme coming. Yeah, obviously we had our dark theme and the black theme, but now there's a light theme coming. Personally, not sure about it.
Yeah.
However, it enables choice, and that is something I'm absolutely all about and very excited to see, all of those different colors, all of those things coming through. But the one that I am most excited about is a new music control. So the current music control within Windows 10 has been the same since Windows 8.
Yeah.
It's that little corner that pops up in the left-hand side on the top of your device. And I won't lie, it does annoy me. It gets in my way, it kind of minimizes itself, if I've got Spotify open, which I do all the time because it automatically boots, even just now, I've just got my computer open, I'm just hitting the volume button and it pops up and it's kind of annoying, and you go to minimize it and wait for it to minimize, but you hover over it and then it doesn't leave and you're not quite sure what to do. Do you struggle with that? Is that just my problem?
Have you had it come up when you're in Skype and you're sharing your screen and you think,
all the time.
I better mute
all
my
the time
volume?
And I listen to a vast array of music. I've had it in a meeting where I've accidentally I know my Post Malone, all sorts of things. I will talk about Post Malone in a second, actually. But this new music control is amazing, and it's down where the volume icon is.
Yeah. So where you get your normal notifications.
Yeah, where you get your normal notifications down the bottom right hand side next to your action center. Where that volume thing is, the new next, play, repeat and shuffle, that will now appear down there. Not now, soon. Sorry, just to clarify. So these are things that are already will be coming soon to the Insiders Preview and have been announced for 2019. Another really exciting one
I'm
is
excited. I didn't know
kind
this
of
one.
already coming through in some areas, but Cloud Clipboard for phones. very similar to things like Continue on PC, all of those kinds of things, but it's literally like a copy and paste. So if my phone is linked to my PC, I can copy it on my phone and paste
Honestly,
it over.
I'm excited about that.
Oh my
I'm really
goodness.
excited about that.
So there are a lot of new and exciting things coming. There are more things to snipping, the new snip and sketch experience. I love that. Snipping tool, Windows Shift S have been a huge part of my life for a very long part of my life. It's how we create a lot of content. It's how we really easily grab stuff and share stuff and all of that sort of thing. So having that where it kind of puts it to the side, you can bring it up and ink on it and all of those kinds of things. Very similar to how you would, I don't know if it's the same on Android, but if I screenshot something now on my iPhone, it brings up little inking features and stuff like that. So I can edit stuff in Facebook Messenger if I want to circle things, write notes. Oh, you can tell I'm getting excited for all of these, simple, nice little things. And it's kind of been the theme of what we talked about today, right? Sometimes it's not the biggest things and the biggest changes that make the difference, but sometimes it's the smallest things that can make such a huge difference to what you're actually using and how you use the stuff you do.
Yeah, just one more part on that snip and sketch before we close off for the day. Just a shout out, that's actually going to replace the snipping tool. So it's going to replace the snipping tool, but the great thing...
if you have it, and let's not make this another paint. If you have opened the snipping tool recently, it will come up saying like, hey, we are, replacing this with this. It lets you know. I know the internet went wild when we said, hey, we're going to replace Paint with Paint 3D. So just, check it out, have a go, and I can guarantee you your experience will be 100 times better.
And the great thing about it is it works from your ink workspace, so you can just program it to select, to work with your pen as well, which is awesome. So it means, you just use your pen, you select what you want to snip out, and you can ink using your pen straight away. So on that bombshell,
I think that's that.
That's it.
I think just dropped something. I was waiting. I was excited. But that is us.
That is us. So we'll
maybe next week we'll play some games.
Yeah, hopefully we will. We might be able to.
Excellent. We'll see you guys next week.